Hi everyone, my name is Taimour and I'm the founder of Expert by Experience. Expert by Experience is a volunteer-led platform that looks at mental health in South Asian communities from an intersectional and critical lens. Now that sounds like a lot of big words. In effect, what we try and do is we try and platform as many marginalized voices within our communities as possible. And the project really started with my own experiences with mental health. Just to give you a brief background, I come from like an online publishing background. I started off with Media Diversified from the get-go. Really, I was quite fortunate enough to be one of the first young writers that they really, cultivated and brought up with them. And I was fortunate enough to have that experience. And then when I got a bit older, I started my first full-time job, and there was a lot going on in my life, which effectively meant that I had a mental health episode, in effect, with anxiety and depression. So based on those experiences, I recognized there was such a big gap in terms of mental health for South Asian communities, and more specifically South Asian men, that was not being filled. So I decided to start Expert by Experience, which pretty much started off as an organization or as an online publishing platform that would publish one article every month. And here we are 2 years down the line. We do workshops, we do research, we still do the publishing of written pieces and poems, but then we also do podcast episodes, which is really nice. And just in terms of aims and structures, it's very much like there really isn't a structure, I suppose. We do have a team of volunteers that support us, or Expert by Experience, to be able to get across our message. But the aims have been very much, they are not just now building up really as we come to the 2-year mark. So going forward, we will just focus on 3 specific areas. These are research, and then publication, which is our original bread and butter, as I say, and then workshops. So facilitating workshops for South Asian men, which is led by me, but then we're also expanding into South Asian women. And that is where we are, and we're very fortunate to be here after 2 years. As the pandemic came around, and last summer, Black Lives Matter, I feel like it really sparked Expert by Experience as an organization to get into, in effect, to try and meet our communities in any way possible. So the challenges, in my view, which we've had over the last 2 years, is mainly to do around sustainability and the lack of resourcing. So sustainability, what I mean by that is more specific around funding. Just to expand on that, we want to do so much for our communities. Like literally, I would love it if we had like online resources, which we do, but I wish we had more. I wish we had specific workshops for non-binary folks, and then we would be able to pay facilitators. Wish we could do just so many things, but we just have no money. We have no funding. In fact, Expert by Experience is not even a registered CIC as of yet. Hoping to change that very soon. So the issues are more to do with sustainability in that regard. We would like to do so much, but we don't have the money to be able to pay people to do those things, or the money to be able to even pay ourselves. So everything we do is out of love for our communities. So those are the two key big things which you've experienced, which is funding and under-resourcing. But outside of all that, we've tried our best, and this is where it's really essential to be part of a wider community, which we're quite fortunate to be a part of, the wider South Asian mental health sphere that looks at mental health and other important subjects that we've been able to co-produce and co-develop with organizations such as Turkey. That always comes to mind, Spark & Co. And Voices of Color. Within those challenges have been beautiful opportunities that we really, really value and cherish. So the key things that have changed is that sustainability has really come to the forefront of everything that I do, which is why we now focus on 3 specific areas, which are, publishing, workshops, and research. And in my view, and in our view, we believe that these are sustainable things to do because they are heavily funded. So that has really shifted how we do things and what we do. So, we're quite fortunate that we were recently funded by National Survivors Network for our workshops. So that's amazing. We're doing a research project which we hope to get funded. So the way we operate has changed because it is very much molded by sustainability. And, as much as I am driven by passion, and as are all of our other volunteers, unfortunately, passion cannot alone sustain us. So we have to find ways and be able to, effectively be able to mesh together what we're passionate about and what we care about with funding solutions, so that Expert by Experience isn't just a 2-year project, it's one or something that continues for a very, very long time. Our comm strategy has changed significantly over the last years, in that I was just very much just trying to be spread across too many things and trying to have a say on too many things on social media, because I feel like there's a specific pressure to feel involved. And the algorithms on social media platforms also enforce that as well, that you have to be active all the time. So one of the key learnings in terms of our comm strategy over the last 2 years is the fact that we've come to the realization that we do not need to be active all the time, whether that's on social media or, whether it's other comms. We have to reflect what is true to us. And, when it comes to subject matters like that, we will have our say, and, we will have our input collectively with other organizations. And then, recognizing that we have our limitations and our positionalities means that what we do is, in terms of comm strategy, when, say there's a particular subject around, say for Black Lives Matter, like we would never have a direct say on that, but we would do everything in terms of for comm strategy to uplift voices for Black voices for Black Lives Matter. So it's just about being mindful of what space you take up and what that means. The approach now is to be able to find funding that is accessible. So I much rather prefer having to go for funding where you have a lovely call with someone and happy to do stages around that, as opposed to doing like 100 pages of documents, spending hours, which we simply don't have the capacity for. And again, so then the second thing is time. Just being mindful that as volunteers, we have very limited time because we have things going on outside of Expert by Experience. So it's just being mindful that, what can we take on in terms of our funding? And also, it's not about just having funding for the sake of having fundings, but what will it support us in terms of what we would like to achieve? So I think it's just being very mindful of what funding means to you, and also what it means for the person or the organization that is providing the funding. So I feel like it has to be a very good union between the two. And lastly, any advice I would give to other user-led organizations is start. Just get started on things you care about. I feel like sometimes there's a pressure to be like, when things have to be perfect to get started, but that is never the case, and it will never be the case. Whether it means setting up an Instagram page or starting like local workshops for people in your community. It's just that initial spark that gets you going. And then I promise you, if you just continue doing what you care about, years down the line, your life will change. It will never be easy. It never is in our user-led sector where we exist because we've either been let down by mainstream services or there is a gap. But I assure you, like based on my experiences, it's challenging. You're under-resourced, you're looking for funding, but your life changes so much for the better, and it's one of the most beautiful things.